We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. I know y'all tired of it, but we got a new season of The Past. Welcome to season 8, the Mamba Year. Podcast available on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of your podcast platforms. Here you'll get a dose of content related to tech, the productivity world, and most importantly, how to be a better you. The theme for this year, personally, is receiving grace. And we definitely want to do better with receiving it and being open to being a better us from who we were a year ago. So this is season 8 of The Past, and I hope you all enjoy. Doing it again. Taking this crazy walk. Literally at the most innate time of the day. And interestingly enough, I don't know if it's that I need to walk, or if the walk needs me, or what it is, but today is like one of those. Today is one of those, like, I normally wouldn't be stressing to do the walk, but I'm like, bro, get up, go out, and enjoy the fact that you can do this, because not everyone had the ability to do what you're getting the opportunity to do. Like, it's so bad because, like, I'm literally just like delaying my process because I'm like, it's raining, or I don't want to do it because of this, or I just don't feel like dealing with that. And the reality is, like, I get up every day. I'm given and provided a purpose. And even with all of that being where it is, I will find every stressor and burnout and battle possible. With a quick morning jargon out of the way. Happy Wednesday. How are y'all? Have I've been doing the podcast thing for a good little while now, and been off the grid and on the grid and in the loop and out the loop on doing the walks. I keep saying that I'm gonna upload them. I'm going to upload them. I promise y'all. They're I don't owe y'all this explanation, but I'm gonna share this explanation because it's very important to think about. It is not as easy to transform or transfer from audio to, like, from phone audio to um oh, birds lit this morning. From phone audio to laptop to Apple. I'll say it that way. And the reason I'm making that reference, I'm not making an excuse, I'm making a reference, is because as much of a joy and as overly thrilled as I am to be able to provide this source or form of content, it sometimes can feel like the weight of the world. And this is one of those examples because I do go through those phases, those stints where I'm recording, I'm uploading, I'm working on stuff,
and I'll get like, "Hey, I heard this episode," and this is not even like me coming for nobody because it's also me having to like still be productive in my output. So it's it's wholesome and it's rewarding to know like what you're doing is appreciated and is valued. Um, Something incentivized me this morning. Like I've been open to doing my walks and getting out and going to get this going, but something really hit me this morning with it, and it stemmed from yesterday because I was asked about doing the corporate run, which there's been a corporate run that has gone on near my neck of the woods as far as employment for quite a few years. And usually at the time of the event, I'm normally like, I'm good, not going to participate, not really seeing it as my thing. But for some reason, I guess between rocking the 10K and also just like really getting my body back in motion, it's it's fired off more of the need to like move more. And the move the move the movement motivation has been very fluctuating because now I think we're nearing, if not hitting, the 1 month mark, almost a month since the race. And I tell you, you don't think you will feel something, but it will hit you when you least expect it. And when you don't, as the age old saying goes, if you stop doing something, you feel the remnants of it. And I've been definitely feeling the remnants when I don't get out and go walk, or when I don't get out and go move. Um, this might be my first unofficial rain podcast, by the way. So if you hear some little sprinkles in there, or or as the internet's been using the term, and I think I used it. I think I used a reference on one of my last episodes. This dumbass sprinkle, sprinkle, and drizzle, drizzle BS of like soft girl and soft boy era. And this might be a good starting point for a topic. It's not a topic that is wholesome, but it's a topic that's funny. People are cooked. When I say people, it has no age limit, this has no restriction, this has no connotation to the term, but it's a loaded yet genuine statement. People are cooked. And when I say people are cooked, I mean people are really becoming tired of who they are, but tired of where their routine has been taking them. Some people have no routine. Um, One of the girls I follow on YouTube, she shared a video talking about how it's so many videos about get up at 5 a.m., do this, get this done. But the reality is, everybody cannot get up at 5 a.m. There are some people in this world who are better getting up at the last minute and getting everything done. There are some people who are 4 a.m. people. I'll never forget when I kind of got like the habit down of like, okay, let's try to 6, get up at 6, get the day started, bam, bam, all that stuff. Then I build it back to 5, and I'm like, yeah, 5 o'clock is like a good hitting point. And then I met somebody who is part of a business group that I'm working in, and he offered the idea. He was like, try four. I tried four. I think I did four for like a couple of days. Four was too early, way too early. So I scaled it back and stuck with five. And I've personally been on the 5 a.m. dance probably for lack of a better term, at least 3 or 4 years. Am I going to sit here and say it's perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have days that I get up and lay right back down? Who doesn't? But I will say this. You feel the difference in your body, in your energy, in the way you carry yourself, in your mindset when you are put in like something that's a little bit different and a little more unorthodox. And this is an example of that. Like sometimes we're not understanding the why, but then over time it makes sense of the why. Tell a crazy story. I promise y'all, I'm gonna get back to the Springer drizzle bit a little bit more in depth. Um, but like literally, it's a few days ago, actually last week, because I still have that audio that I did a part of the audio, took a break, then continued the audio. But I went out. I was like, let me get a quick walk in, kind of go out, get my head clear. Did the walk, finished up the jog, and then got home. I got home, and the first thing I was hit with was, "Hey, did you remember to get the cases of water?" And I was like, "I didn't go to do that. I went to like walk. I didn't like my car didn't move. I don't know what you were looking to have happen, but that wasn't the agenda. That wasn't the plan. And I'm sorry that the plan doesn't align with the plan you had going on, but things happen. All that being said, I've and the thing that's crazy is that particular day that I experienced all of that was like a day when I went out and I was like, hey, I'll just do the walk, whatever. And I came out here and I did the walk and I was like, bro, what am I missing? Why am I not like on this? And now like it's it's inadvertently second nature. Like I've walked from where I live to a known school. If you know, you know. I ain't gonna put no names out there because I don't need y'all knowing where I'm at. But and me, random fact and random thought. I'm gonna record this now. When I'm thinking about it. I'm always curious whenever we do audio recordings, whether it's for a podcast, like say it's on our obviously on the phone, it'll show your location, but when recording using equipment and setting up things, is the location made aware of where the show was done unless you verbally share that? But just something I thought about. Back on subject. Uh, yeah, like you'd be surprised how simple it is when you added something to your routine, you make it part of your routine, and then you get away from that thing that you added to your routine. And then you're forced to wonder to yourself, why did I take that out of my routine again? Like what was my plan or what was my logic in doing so? And typically we have no answer. Like obviously we don't know. We just do it because we think it works. But the reality is it doesn't work. Because if it did work, we would be better off without that thing that we removed. But we need that thing that we removed, which is why I should have been added to the first place. I promise you. I know I'm babbling, but if you go back and listen to that those last couple seconds, it'll make sense. Um, but yeah, returning to the soft guy, soft girl era. a lot of men, me not being one of them, but could kind of be put in that realm of being one of them, um, value those like that calmness and that stress free vibe at times. I value minimal to no noise. I am a fan of, and people think I'm always, a lot of people don't get why I'm such a huge speaker slash headphone slash earbud slash wired earbud consumer. But then when they realize, like, I'm the type of person, if I go somewhere, I want to be somewhere, I want to sit, I want to not have a whole lot of noise around me, I want to have a whole lot of, I don't want to have a whole lot of nonsense in my space. The less, the less friction I have, the better. And I'm not a now. Let me go ahead and get this out the way now. I am not in the quote unquote passenger prince reference that a lot of women use for like being passenger princesses. I am a hardcore, natural born, hardwired driver. However, if meeting someone that can alleviate the driving off of my back, I'm never gonna not give them the opportunity to drive. Because I think at times we get mixed up in the notion or the idea that we have to be the driver all the time. We have to be in charge. Like there are some people, and I've seen this. I've seen people where they go places and it doesn't matter who's going where. They have to be the person that's in the driver's seat. They don't trust anybody else to get them where they need to go. They'd rather just say, look, I'm driving. And that's it. And at times that's fine. But there are some instances that you may need to alleviate yourself of that role. And it could work in your favor. Prime example. Random example, but prime example is if you're out with folks and you are placed in the position of having a designated driver. One of the most underrated feelings in the world. Because now you have someone that's with you who they pretty much have all of the stress taken off of you and having to worry about getting home or making it safe. And at times that can be very undervalued, whether we realize it or not. So I'm really wanting people to like, and I think the term that's used is the whole soft girl, soft boy era or whatever. But what I found, 'cause I'm still going to read the book. I don't want to talk about the book anymore. Uh, Cal Newport's latest book, Slow Productivity. In a nutshell, that's what that's all about. Productivity, productivity videos, productivity books, productivity content as a whole makes this term or this notion or idea of what's called the the hustle and bustle category, where if you're not doing this and you're not in a position with these things and you're not doing enough, and it's like, do you really? Is that we really measure what a person does, how they should be doing stuff? And in some instances, it's unfair to people because now here it is, you're put in this position of given this high expectation to complete things that you would not have normally completed if you weren't placed behind like an aggressive paywall. And it's a personal paywall because you're now throwing yourself in a space of like, and I like it's so what goes around comes around now because all the time I'm always telling the story about my trainer who I think this is before he even started really locking in on training. He was a productivity addict in the sense that he had so many things that he felt like he needed to do. And I was like, it's not that you can't get all of those things done, but you can also not make your list so bombarding or so overwhelming that it dominates your life or dominates your routine. And it was dominating his routine so much so that he wasn't able to he was able to get what he needed to get done, but he would be putting so much added pressure on himself that he didn't need to. And so I threw a challenge to him. And I know people who listen to podcasts like, you don't stop talking about the same story. But my first timers, this might be something to think about. For those of you who don't know or aren't sure whether you're doing enough or getting enough done, get a piece of paper with a dry erase board. It's something you can write on. Don't care what it is. Write out everything you do in one day. Like, let's say for me today it's Wednesday. On today, and do this the night before. If you want to do it the day of, you can, but it's better to do it the night before. But if you do it the day of, that's fine too. Write down everything you need to do today. And once you've written all those things down, I want you to look at your list and I want you to commit to it and see how much of it you get done. And then after you finish it, then look at or pretty much almost have like the self reflection conversation with yourself of, am I really productive after getting these things accomplished? And for some people the answer is yes. And for some people it's, I did all of this but I feel like I'm not doing enough. And that then gives you your, to say what I was saying, it gives you your answer key. Because the truth is, we at times unknowingly place way more on our plate than we necessarily have to. And I think because if we look at others, like a lot of people look at my day to day and they like, Brian, you do so much stuff. I don't see how you do all of it. And the honest answer is, I do it because many of the things that I'm working on, it's me. It comes back to me. There's no alternative option. There's no alternative scenario. So if I have to, let's say, if I do a podcast, I'm my own editor. I'm my own recorder. I'm my own uploader. I do all of my stuff myself. Now, if you have someone that like knows those things and you can afford to, if you can afford and most importantly trust them in doing those things, by all means, distribute the workload. But in theory, and from a long-term perspective, many people who do stuff like that are typically going to come back to the same message, and that's, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And that's primarily been my personal MO for over 8 years. I'm going all the way around. Slow productivity slash drizzle, sprinkle, all right, friends. And we're on walk slash jog number 2. But I do want people to really zone in and like take personal inventory and or accountability of, there will be times that you gotta be the whole band. And at times you might be there could be positions where you're the lead singer or you could be backup singer. I jokingly make this reference with people on my podcast. So a lot of people come on and they're never sure how to like blend into a show. But over time, you learn that it's more about making sure that your if you have a guest, your guest is heard, but also not like I forgot who Paul George had on this particular episode, but there was one episode. No, actually, it was Brian Shaw. It was when Brian Shaw was explaining the story with PJ Carlissimo and Latrell Sprewell. And one thing with PG that I do like with them doing the podcast, and granted, I wish the effort he gives to the podcast, and this is almost a self-inflicted wound what I'm about to say. The effort that goes into a lot of my offline content should go into my online content. And what I mean by that is, I'm gonna get back to the story, I promise. My offline content, my podcast, my designing, my notary, my content creation on TikTok, my voice walk recordings like this, they get a good amount of my effort. But then my online, my grind, my coding, my development skills, my knowledge base in being a developer, my IT pipeline, it doesn't get the proper TLC at times. And I feel it when it doesn't. But a lot of that, bringing back to that famous word, is accountability. But going back to the PJ, to the Brian Shaw and PG combo, as Brian Shaw was telling the story, PG didn't interrupt him at all. Like he let him just rock. And at times, that's what makes or breaks a lot of podcasters. Is you can have all the follow up questions in the world, but if you take time and like really listen to what's being said, it'll all come home. To be a little brief break here. Good morning. How are you? Good, good. At times, whether we realize it or not, we got to take time and just listen. And I've talked about this in different formats and different dialogues, but it's becoming more and more reality that for a lot of us, it is a challenge to just listen. Good morning. Not much. How are you? Good. For a lot of us, it's very endearing and very challenging to, as I've presented on the show before, put on our listening ears. Because when we listen, listening helps us learn, right? We know that, we understand that, but we sometimes, in its immediate moment, don't realize the magnitude of taking time to listen to people and also realizing at the end of the day, whether anybody openly tells you this or not, folks want to be heard. They want to be heard, and they want to be heard at their loudest of moments, and they want to be heard in their quietest of moments. Some instances, people, and I've learned this about myself. Sometimes people will want to talk to me, but they don't know if I'm in the space to listen to what they have to say. Now, let me distinguish two things before I cause any trouble. There's a difference between being in a listening space for what someone has to say and having the bandwidth for what somebody has to say. The bandwidth part can be very tricky because some people will make themselves open and available all the time, and in doing so, leave themselves little to no. Ooh, uh-oh. We got one, coach. I'm looking at the police. They sit in the cut not far from where I stay. And you moving too fast, they will catch you. Cause it's a smooth little speed. It's not even that it's necessarily a speed trap, it's just people don't really be thinking because they just going. Um depending on how far I go. I may see the car. I don't know. But um our bandwidth is very important to us, but sometimes we neglect our bandwidth because we're like, oh, I'm readily available. I'll listen to anything that you got to share or say. But in reality, we don't. We're not gonna be acknowledgeable of what they're sharing and saying. Like I had to kind of take an accountability hit the other day where someone reached out and was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you after work." And I think because I had so many things going on with work and then just with life, literally didn't think about, oh shoot, I need to call him and take it off. And also, and this is the thing now that I've learned. Now that I've like had to do a brief car transition, which I'm about to get Chelsea back, I'm like, if I don't have to, I don't need my phone right now. And when I had Chelsea, I really didn't need my phone because I had my dash my CarPlay. Which, by the way, I think CarPlay is the most undervalued tool that we can use. Um, Whatever it's called for Android, I think that type of resource or um, item should be openly available to anyone and to any car. Um, Using mine, I've enjoyed using it for the last. I think I've used it for about over a month, and I like what it does, and I like how it works. Um, because what it does is it pretty much just puts me in a position of, okay, where am I traveling? What am I listening to? And what's on my schedule today? My essentials. Like in life, as we not necessarily near the end, but we're gonna hit kind of the close to the end point. Um, and like in life, whether we openly say it or it's formed its dialogue in whatever form or fashion, we need our essentials. And our essentials is what keeps us functioning. When you leave out the house, there are things you know you're gonna need. You need your phone, your keys, and your wallet. Now, there's other stuff that's gonna come into play for everyone individually, for preferences, but those are gonna be your essentials. Some some of my essentials are my planner, my tablet. Like my tablet is a essential, but it's not like if I left home and it still stayed at home, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But my phone, a little bit of a different story, but I can also navigate if I had another resource, aka if I had my tablet. If I got my tablet, hop on the Wi-Fi, we good. As long as most times I'm in a space where I'm near Wi-Fi. So there's that. Um, but really working on like having those essentials is very key, and bringing it back to the slow productivity. I'm not like I said, I'm not gonna call it the other phrase. I think like I said, that's a cool phrase. It's great. I know I reference it because it's raining outside or drizzling outside, but the reality is like you sometimes need what's called or what's considered as the calm before the storm. And in many cases or many scenarios, we'll put ourselves in a chaotic position, which leads me into my final thought before I finish up this walk. And that is good old Parkinson's Law. I am really compelled to believe that Parkinson's Law is my undercover Achilles. And the reason I'm standing behind it and why I'm so in strong belief of this being the thing that can help me but harms me because I utilize it way too often is because I'm always aware of my window and I will use as minimal to none of my window as possible in not doing what I need to do. But somehow when it's like near the end, it's like it works, it gets done, and everything is great. And I shouldn't be, as a human and as a creator, I know it shouldn't work that way. But there are a lot of opportunities that can be missed or could be left on the table or could be ignored because of calling myself working from behind when in reality I should be playing ahead of the curve. For those of you who do not know, or have, you probably heard me talk about it here and there on the podcast. But long story short, Parkinson's law is we use the maximum amount of time that we provide ourselves to do something. So, easiest example: if we know we need to get up and we're in a position to arrive at work, say by 8:30, and we know our morning routine requires us to be out and ready by at least 8:10, 8:15. Well, what happens is instead of getting out at 8 o'clock to get there before 8:30, we look at it as, oh, let me just prolong the process up until the last minute. And then that way I've gotten what I need to get done. An even more clear example or more realistic example is you have homework due for school. That homework easily, you've been given 2 weeks to do it. Now, you know in your heart of hearts and you know deep down the reality is you can get that joint done in 3 or 4 days. But we lollygag. That first week, we don't work on it. That last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we don't work on it. Thursday comes around, we start churning on it a little bit, we do our draft. Friday is when it's due. It's due by the end of Friday. We spend all of Friday doing what we could have done in that whole 2 weeks. And that is a summary of Parkinson's law. If you did it in the first 3 or 4 days, you got those other days free to work on other stuff. But we don't, at least me, I don't think of it that way. I think of it as, hey, I'm gonna get this done right now to the last minute, and then try to pull some miracle out of the sky. And it never, from experience, it never goes or ends well. But somehow I call myself thinking it's gonna come together, and it doesn't. So lately, I'm learning more and more to not put myself in that type of position because it can be very frustrating. It can be very overwhelming. It can be very, in many instances, it causes a burnout unknowingly. And in the long run, you want to do everything in your power to remain here, not to limit the ability of being here. So, my 2 messages I'm going to give you finishing this walk. And thanks if you listen to this whole walk, I commend you because I was all over the place at one point. I think I was just trying to walk just to navigate, but it got done. So I thank y'all if you stayed for the whole walk. The two things I want you to think about: slow productivity. Be productive, but don't feel like you need to run at 1,000 miles an hour and lollygag your time away with the 1,000 miles an hour. And it's nothing against being in your space or in your position of not feeling like you have to be the driver. If you need those relax points, if you need a nap, take a nap. If you need a break, take a break. If you need to stop, stop. Don't feel like you're put in this position of like, I got to keep up with what everybody else is doing around me. We're all running our own race. So that's a long-winded version of part one. Part two, and will probably be the heaviest punch of it all, is um, take some time and look at what you have to work on and find ways to get it done in a more timely manner without forcing yourself into a burnout. And what that looks like is If you've been given an option to work on something and you have a month to complete it, if it takes you a month, now if it takes a month to complete it, use a month. But if it's only going to take you 1 or 2 weeks, get it done in 2 weeks. Because the last thing you need is to be doing something and then it gets to the end of that point and then you're not able to do it. Because all it's going to do then is just tire you out even more. So those are my messages I'm leaving with you all. I hope you all have an amazing day. Again, this is recorded on Wednesday, May 15th, but it will be uploaded soon. I don't have like a promise on timelines because at the time I don't even know my timeline. I just know I got to do it. So I want y'all to just hone in on those things. And I'm even saying this to myself because part of me is on like I want to hang out and I want to go do stuff. But the other part of me is like, maybe I need to use today as a library session and just reset and recalibrate. So hopefully you all will get through this and make things shake and move accordingly. And I will catch y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.
Truly hope you all enjoyed the show. Definitely was a lot to unpack, but I know you'll walk away with something important. As I share at the end of each season, do find your way to get into podcasting if it's something you would like to do. My podcasts are currently recorded via Buzzsprout. Been very good to me. If you want to learn more about using them, definitely hit me up at thepastbtpod@gmail.com. And also the microphone that you're hearing me on is the Blue Yeti X. Have been rolling with it for over 3 years. We've been doing this ride for quite some time, so I hope someone could find this mic useful. Again, find those people who are good or helpful in what you're trying to do to be better today than you were yesterday. The primary goal is to be 1% better. Hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll be back again to do this next time.